Well, this has been an interesting week. Coming up on the Sideshow Bob, we have the BBC being sued for 10 billion, the Bondi mass shooting that happened just in Australia, unemployment rocketing at 5.1%. That is record numbers post-COVID. Coming up on the Bobbing Around, we address the Anglican Church and what they have said about the Putting the Christ Back in Christmas demonstration, and also the quite vigorous report done by Hope Not Hate, and special guest Emma Dunwell, because she did the demonstration for the digital ID on the same day that I did a speech on putting the Christ back in Christmas. So we'll just be comparing notes on the effectiveness of each protest.
While we're all pointing the finger and calling each other controlled opposition, we're just dividing ourselves further and not joining to fight a cause that could have very, very much gone hand in hand.
Finally, into talking points, we're going to do a nice compilation, funny moments with stands and debates I've done at Speaker's Corner. So let's get right into it with the news. Now, this is just in on the day of filming, but Trump, and I always find it funny with Trump, he always does these sort of political stunts, especially considering the recent controversy surrounding Epstein files. It seems like this is just trying to drag a headline in order to gerrymander towards having a favourable position with the electorate. However, he's had to sue in Florida, considering that there are statutes that state that you have a certain amount of time for suing people for defamation in different states and here in the United Kingdom for over 10 billion.
In a little while, you'll be seeing I'm suing the BBC for putting words in my mouth, literally. They put words in my mouth.
Now, reminder, that is more than the BBC receives and generates for 1 year. So if they were actually successful in suing for this amount of money, regardless of how much Keir Starmer tries to give in terms of a buyout, they are completely defunct.
They actually have me speaking with words that I never said, and they got caught. Because I believe somebody at BBC said, this is so bad, it has to be reported. That's called fake news.
So I honestly just think this is more of a stunt to round out BBC and receive more coverage towards its, biased censorship of certain political ideas. Reminder, and I will just be showing you the clip now, of what it actually was on the Paramara documentary. Other documents also released that they had more of a favourable coverage of Palestine over Israel, and that's, of course, reflective of the current political scene here in the United Kingdom.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
Continuing on, the Bondi mass shooting, where over 10, and this was a Hanukkah celebration, because of course we're close to that celebration. Over 10 people were severely hurt. I think 10 were killed. And you're actually just going to see a video now of a gentleman grabbing for the weapon.
Oh! C'est un malade. Oh non, gros! Ouais, mais il y a son pote, il va se faire.
It seems like there was 3 people involved, 2 shooters and another man related to the incident being arrested.
Is this what you wanted? Is this enough now? Will you listen to us? And ABC, I've got to say, will you cut out the biased reporting? Mainstream media, we feel will you cut it out? Will you actually let us have a voice? Because we feel that part of the reason that the Jewish people have experienced such a massive change in Australia towards us. I mean, I'm Aussie. I'm Aussie, but I'm not a religious Jewish girl, but a woman. But since October the 7th, since all the hatred that's been thrown at us, I started to wear my Magen David because I'm Jewish, and if you have something to say, you can say it to me.
And this sort of demonstrates the sort of anti-Semitism both on the dissident right and also from the Muslim community. I mean, just as you're seeing now is a screenshot from one of the Palestine organisers in Australia talking about how much he hates Zionism. Continuing onwards, the highest recorded numbers of unemployment, 5.1%, which is come up from 4.1% last year.
Unemployment has risen to 5.1%, its highest level in almost 5 years. Young people are among the hardest hit, with the jobless rate for 18 to 34-year-olds at 8.7%. Employment also contracted, the number of monthly payrolled employees falling by 38,000. Many firms say the employer national insurance rise in April has made hiring more expensive.
And this is the highest post-COVID figures. And it demonstrates that increasing national insurance only means that you have more people wanting to be employed and employers not being able to afford to employ people.
Well, sadly, I'm not surprised. If you tax something, Nick, you tend to get less of it. And the first thing that the government did when they came into office was whack taxes on businesses and particular jobs in terms of national insurance increases. They talked down the economy. They mishandled the run-up to this budget by flying all these various kites on different taxes that would go up, killed the animal spirits. And the final thing they've done is they've borrowed and spent vast amounts of money, stoked inflation, and that's meant interest rates higher for longer. And that has also weighed down on business and the jobs market. So I'm afraid, if you take those kind of choices, this is what you should expect.
Especially small businesses, and this is why reform have been so great in trying to reel in small businesses, because they are arguing that a reduction in the minimum wage will increase the amount of people that they can employ, thus satisfying a deficit in the labour whilst also supplying people who are currently unemployed with jobs. If you lower the standard, if you reduce restrictions, therefore increasing employment. Now, I can sort of see this underlining sort of optic of that. It was essentially saying that you should be paid less for the same amount of work. However, you don't have the access to work in the first place. In Whitehall on the 13th of December, there were 3 demonstrations. And unfortunately, because of the way they were organised, there wasn't a lot of transparency and a lot of resentment. So I thought, considering this and considering the fact that I'm a pioneer in the free marketplace of ideas, and I largely believe a lot of the hatred and divisions on the right, even though we share in the same beliefs, it's just through superstition and conjecture. I brought on Emma Dunwell. How you doing? I saw that beautiful speech you did. However, there was a lot of flack between each camps of people, between the digital ID protest and the putting the Christ back in Christmas. So just quickly talk about how the protest went for the digital ID, talk about how it was layered, the people speaking, how you felt it went, and then I'll talk about how putting the Christ back in Christmas went.
Yep. So the digital ID protest went great. It had been organised for a good few weeks. I think it was 6 weeks. It had been organised for a good couple of months. Really good turnout. The march was fantastic. It started at BBC Portland Place and then marched to Whitehall. And I mean, to be fair, I don't know how many people, but I had like a bird's eye view of the crowd at one point, and there was a really, really decent turnout. The crowd thinned out a little bit more throughout the day. As it got dark, it got a bit windier, a bit colder. But all in all, I think we had a really good day. Amazing speakers. Obviously, we had David and Gareth Ike. We had Fiona, who's the organiser. And I was really, really honoured and thankful to Fiona as well for asking me to speak. Never spoke at a rally before. It was definitely a first for me. I was also live streaming the event, so at one point it was kind of like running back and forth, which was a bit stressful, but other than that, it was, yeah, I had a really, really wonderful time.
But this 21-year-old independent journalist is absolutely incredible. Please give a massive round of applause for Emma Dunwell, please. Emma speaks freely.
They want you to willfully hand over your rights because you're so scared and so fearful of the mass sways of illegals that they're purposefully allowing into this country. We know that it's all a lie. This was purposefully orchestrated in order to bring about digital ID. We all know that by now. And we all know there's no difference. Labour, Conservative, they're all the same. They are all puppeted by the same people. But one thing that concerns me that they've managed to convince people is now to advocate for the exit of the ECHR. Now I know, after hearing about so many terrorists that have avoided deportation because their child doesn't like foreign chicken nuggets, and they tell you that it's always because of the ECHR, you start to dislike that document. But the ECHR allows us to have the values that we hold dear. Without the ECHR, citizen journalism wouldn't exist. I quote the ECHR articles sometimes when I'm out in the field. The right, Article 11, the right in order to be able to observe and report on a protest without the police arresting you for filming them. It's the ECHR that allows me to film the police. You can't do that in China. I don't even think you could do that in France. These are the things that they want us to give up, and they want us to do it with a smile on our faces. So if there's one thing that I will say, because I really don't want to keep you guys too long, I know that the days run long, but if there's one thing that I will say is if they want our biometrics, and if they want our history, our medical history and everything, then they can come and get it over our cold, unverified, dead bodies, and not a moment before. And just to leave you all is, we all know that I guarantee each one of us has a couple of family members at home that still call us skeptics. Go and tell them to look at the truckers protest in Canada in 2022, what Trudeau did, freezing the banks of anyone who donated any more than $20 to the GoFundMe, the GovUK One login, the trial that none of us asked for. And if they want to keep bringing this in, then we will have to keep showing up day after day, week after week, cold, light, dark, warm, whatever, we will be here saying not in our name, not with our faces, and not on our watch. Thank you all for listening.
Now, the way that the Putting Christ Back in Christmas was organised is it was 3 weeks before, so a shorter time that the digital ID protest was formed, which of course then gave an onslaught of conspiratorial theories surrounding the sort of reasons why it was organised on the same day. And the reason that Tommy gave and the team at Urban Scoop in the UTK was that originally it was the 20th. Now, closer towards the time of Christmas, typically people aren't so much available. They wanted to do the event, however, going more towards into November and December, it severely reduced the sort of appropriate time to do the demonstration. So ultimately, the only real appropriate time to do it would have been on the Saturday of the 13th. Now, they wanted it in Whitehall Place, which I think was where the sort of digital ID protest took place. However, the police liaised on with both organisations. Of course, you know, the letters from Fiona made it sound like it was more in favour of Tommy. However, that could just be in bias, just because the guy has a brand back from the football hooligan days of giving a real big audience. So I feel like they were just, you know, in a PR scandal and they were just manic, because the police mostly are. So then they gave it more towards the middle, towards Downing Street, and the opposing end for the counter-protest, because of Tommy always gets one. The speeches were compiled of different clergy members of different churches, including the Confessing Anglican Church, a schism that derived a long time ago between the Church of England and Anglican communities that were disagreeing with the way that the Church of England were moving in terms of a progressive direction, and other non-denominational churches, and people giving confessions such as Danny Roscoe, Danny Tomo, Tommy Robinson, and other speakers who have contributed towards Christianity, including myself and Bob of Speaker's Corner.
Merry Christmas, London! And can I say I'm deeply humbled. I started out as an evangelist, and there was a very decent reason why I started out with the Lord Jesus Christ. Now, to give a background onto why I am blessed to speak to so many patriots across the United Kingdom is because of my confession of the Christian faith. Now, I'm very proud to admit that 2 years ago in secondary school, I was depressed and suicidal. I had idolized myself, fell into the sin of atheism, and I indulged in sinful activities that led to my mental and physical health in dismay. Now, Jesus Christ, the Father and the Holy Spirit, is the only one God that will meet you down on your level. And the way you do that is through rejecting the self and accepting the Lord Jesus Christ as your Saviour. Now, the one thing I have come to reject when it comes to the commercialization of Christmas is this: that Christmas is not about gift giving, but receiving a gift. That being the promise of the cross. And whatever the Anglican Church tells you, everyone, regardless of the merit of your political opinions, is worthy of the promise of the cross. And despite attempts of ripping out the Christian roots of this great nation, the persistence of the Spirit on the street demonstrates twofold that Jesus Christ is not just returning, but has always been here to begin with. And we have been sent, ladies and gentlemen, to continue the flame of our forefathers. And I am deeply humbled to preach, to receive, and to talk about the glorious gifts of the Holy Spirit. Because if it wasn't for Jesus Christ, I wouldn't be here. If it wasn't for Jesus Christ, none of us would have loved and appreciate one another. If it wasn't for Jesus Christ, this nation wouldn't be great. And wouldn't it be great to see this nation restored back to its ancestral roots? And the last thing before I read the gospel is this. One of the men, a great man who bore witness to the faith, that served as a martyr, bringing so many Christians into the United States. Charlie Kirk, the founder of the organization that I help run here in the UK. This is the first Christmas we're observing without our great founder. And as Jesus Christ said, look at the fruit that is born. Look at the fruit that is begotten by the actions of a great man. So many of us were inspired by the works and preachings of Charlie Kirk. So all I can promise to you is that as a young man, I am deficient in so many things. And I plead everyone to accept Christian forgiveness. And that me as a young man here, as 17 years of age, I tell you that I symbolize that men and women of my generation deeply need the discipline of the Christian faith.
Now, the real reason, and it's not just to talk about the event, because of course everyone with their eyes can watch the live streams and kind of look at it for themselves. However, it's just because of the discontent, the disconnect. A lot of people, because they typically do, accuse Tommy of being paid opposition, even though he lended his support towards people going. However, there was still the logistical issue of, because the speakers were pointing the Picnic the Christ Back in Christmas towards the digital ID protest, there was some interference with sound, and from what I saw, a lot of the people at UTK did have the same concern because no one knew how anyone was organising their stuff. We thought that we might actually have the same issue that you had. So I don't think it was intentional. I think a lot of the times people connect patterns that come coincidentally and try to act like it's controlled, especially when talking about stuff like digital ID. So I want to know what your thoughts are.
Well, I mean, I don't want to go for this whole we and them. I think that is how we got into this whole mess to begin with. Everyone gets things thrown at them. Just like the left, typically, like if they disagree with you, they call you far right, they call you a fascist, they call you a Nazi. Those are their like shut down terms, if that makes sense. Those are the terms that they'll use within their movement if they want to cancel you. The right is guilty of the same thing, except what we do is we say, oh, they're controlled opposition, or oh, they're paid by Israel, because within the right we have like the it's like over in America, there's like the America First right wing, and then there's the supposed Israel First right wing, and it's all, we've kind of got that same split going on here. And everyone's distrusting of each other. And while we're all pointing the finger and calling each other controlled opposition, we're just dividing ourselves further and not joining to fight a cause that could have very, very much gone hand in hand. I mean, putting the Christ back into Christmas, sovereignty, the celebration of the birth of Jesus, happiness, music, all of these things could have very much gone hand in hand with positively resisting the coming tyrant of digital ID. I really think that it's a shame that these protests had to be so separate. I think that it's a shame that there are these accusations being thrown around. So I think it's just about maybe being a bit too conspiratorial sometimes. But that's one of the reasons why I like the fact that the work that we do together. And it was pretty cool, like knowing that while I was waiting to go up and do my speech, you'd not long done yours. And both of us were on either stage at some point throughout the day. And we worked together just fine. You know, and we know each other on a personal level. I consider you a friend. So I don't know why, especially when it comes to looking at the bigger cause and looking at the bigger picture, sometimes it frustrates me that people just can't put that petty stuff aside to fight for the cause.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing as well, because like everyone, you know, getting into the industry of politics more broadly as well, they always have this superstition of this like big establishment. And there's a discussion to be had, you know. We have this thing, and this is what popularism is: the people versus the establishment, us versus them. And sometimes we don't know what the them is in that statement. So we will say, for example, a lot of people on the right think that Tommy is a part of the them statement when we say us against them. How useful is that, though, practically speaking? Not really. And I only like to attack things that are within my material reach or things that I can ultimately change. We can change digital ID. However, what we can't change is a conspiracy theory without any evidence suggesting the people that you are working with on a regular basis are secretly paid to move things in a small way that would disaffect us. I think that's not how it should work. That totally eliminates teamwork. And there's actually an interesting video I saw a few weeks before the assassination of Charlie Kirk, where he was asked about his relationship with Candace after the alleged anti-Semitic posts she made. And he said, well, do you want me to be like the left? I don't want to disassociate myself with other people that I know, love and respect because of the merit of their ideas. And it is like, you know, having the moral high ground. Certainly, yes. Like when people approach me and saying, you're like paid by Israel or whatever because I work for Turning Point, I laugh my head off because it's like, I work for these people, it's at all not the case. So how do you see, because you've mentioned about the America, there is a huge visible divide between the America First and the MAGA Republican base. What do you see in terms of the divide that is already showing cracks in the UK, emerging more as the right wing gets more power?
Well, this is what it is. When everyone's talking about it splitting up the right, people look at fringe parties like Reform, UKIP, I'm trying to think, Integrity Party, National Housing Party, all of these smaller parties. Obviously, Reform is not small anymore, but at a time. This is what everyone's on about when they say it's splitting the vote. But in actual fact, all it is that's dividing, there's nothing that's really dividing the values of these people. They all, like, for instance, let's just look at the MAGA lot in America and then versus the America First that think that they're all Israel funded. And, you know, I don't know. I'm not here to say they either are or they're not. I'm just saying this is what it looks like. That if you actually look at their values, you know, they want to return to a traditional mindset. They want to bring Christianity back. They want the youth to be more conservative. They want to stamp down on woke ideology. I know abortion, all of these different things that we talk about constantly, immigration. On their values and their ideals for what that would make their country better, it's all the same. Where they have a disagreement is funding and kind of sovereignty versus globalism. Like if you're going to allow foreign interference, and I think that's the thing. But again, a lot of this is, and like I might be, you know, pot calling kettle black when I say this, but it is all very conspiratorial. And unless you have hard evidence, it's like people coming up to me and saying like, oh, you can't want to believe in truth if you want to like align yourself with Fiona because she used to be in the police. It's like, well, what evidence have you got of that? What, the route had to take a different turn, so now there's this entire... That's not going to help anyone, and we need to be looking at the bigger picture.
You ever watched The Life of Brian?
Not in years, but yeah.
Do you remember the scene where they're trying to organise the People's Front of Judea? And then it's like, no, we're not the People's Front of Judea, we are the Liberation Front of Judea.
Yeah.
And it is literally groups that was originally of like 10 people. Then it's 4 people that formed a new branch or a new organisation with the same sort of wording. And then when they keep on asking about other organisations, one guy who's still a part of the organisation that split from another and split from another and so on and so forth. And it reflects the reason why the left never win. And it was also now reflecting the way that the right won't win. What I mean by that is that the left, if you look at your party and the Greens, might not win because in some areas they are fighting the same battle with the same ideas but with different candidates. And that has always been apparent with the left, because the left has always had an issue of infighting. It is a common attribute of how puritanical the left should always be, and the fighting surrounding being puritanical and pure and principled with your ideas on the left about social justice, progressive politics, or being pragmatical in your ideas of like, you know, let's call it like lowercase s socialism. But now you're seeing that on the right. And because we live in a first-past-the-post system, say if Advance UK stand a candidate where Reform do, and we're in a sort of Sarah Pochen situation where she only wins by 6 votes, the 100 votes that they take away from that party may lose them the election. And this speaks to more, and if we go back to the event at hand, that there was a real possibility that these two events could have had mutual respect for one another. So either based on, look, go to each other's events at different times, maybe spacing out each speech and each event in order for both parties to kind of look at them, or they could have shown the same stage. I think that mostly the reason why that didn't happen was because the digital ID protest was probably organised way in advance compared to the Tommy rally. However, do you think that there could be the possibility of collaboration?
I hope so. I honestly don't know, because I'll admit, since the day, like I'll admit I was completely burnt out the day after. I was live streaming the event. We did the march. It was my first time trialing out the Starlink. I did the speech. So after that day was done, I just had a day at home where I was just like, right, I just need a day to chill out. And I'll admit, I got a little bit down because, you know, you go on social media and after the speech, my mom texted me and she was like, oh, that was great, sweetie, and everything. I was feeling all good. And then I go on Twitter in the morning and it's just, for some reason, I'm copied in to all of these like really petty and argumentative comments between all the digital ID protesters and all the Tommy protesters and everything. And I don't know how I'd been copied in. I think someone had seen my face on one of the posters and thought that it was my rally and had made a post that Tommy replied to, and then that was why it blew up. So I don't know. But either way, it was just like, whoa, hang on a minute. Why don't we talk about the fact that there was a really annoying and frustrating situation in which 2 massive protests had to share one street and we managed to pull it off? That both protests, I'd say, were successful. Both crowds enjoyed both protests. Like, I would say that was a success. And instead of saying like, oh, hey guys, you know, it was a bit awkward, but we pulled it off without a hitch. Maybe let's do it together next time. Everyone's still fighting. And it's so unbearable, because what makes us better than the left? I mean, what is stopping? If we can divide ourselves and fall out that easy over something like that, then what is stopping the people that we agree with 90% things on and just disagree with 10% on? What is stopping us from treating them and them treating us to the same way that you treat someone who has like violently opposing views, like vigorously left and vigorously right? We're not going to get anywhere.
Well, I would also say that we're missing someone out of the equation. There wasn't just 2 demonstrations, there was 3.
Oh, yeah.
And the issue stems from the fact that we had massive speakers and it was faced in the same direction. So if you think about it, and for those at home that don't understand what I'm talking about, because typically I speak in weird ways, if you have the sort of way of travel of a speaker front-facing there and the digital ID protesters here, the sound is travelling this way and will continue, so the audiences at the digital ID protest will hear the Tommy rally. But the same isn't true the other way around, because of course sound doesn't travel backwards. However, because we couldn't hear the left because they were faced that way. And in all honesty, I don't think the police should prioritise a handful of people shouting at a Christmas rally. So like, why not just give the alternative for the counter-protest to be somewhere else near Whitehall, maybe towards Westminster, maybe towards Trafalgar Square, like they were originally on the 13th. So then you would have this equal travel of sound, or alternatively, you just have the 2 demonstrations in Whitehall where you like that. However, with me, with like personal drama, I just don't care. Like I measure people based on my personal interactions with them. And if you have some secret scandal, that's between you, God, and the press. So it's not up to me. It's up to you to figure that out. And I think it's incredibly shameful that they were even gunning for you, considering how many people spoke at that digital ID protest. And the same thing is true for like the rally. Like it was only really Tommy who got the full blast of the flak of the actual demonstration. I don't think it's fair to amount the pressure of an entire demonstration of thousands of people. I think I spoke to one of the police officers, about 10,000, over 10,000 people in Whitehall alone. So yeah, I think that this is a largely stupid divide that largely amounts from, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, superstition.
No, I agree. I don't know if I call it superstition generally, because I think it's superstition more like someone doesn't want to walk under scaffolding or something like that. But I know what you mean. It's all. This is why I was hesitant to use the word conspiracy, because I know I've been called a conspiracy theorist more times than I can count, and it's frustrating. But this kind of stuff, yeah, I do think that it is mostly based on conspiracy. Unless you have hard evidence that you want to, come forward with, then fair enough. But until then, it's just the blame game. All the while, digital ID is still coming. Children are still not returning to Christianity at the rate they should be. And when they are, it's not proper. Do you know what I mean? Like, all while we're fighting, the causes are going unfought for. And that's the problem. Our attention needs to be on the causes, not on fighting with each other.
Yeah, like, for example, like all of these divisions, I don't think people really care as much that Ben Habib and Nigel Farage don't get along more than, well, I just can't afford to live in this country anymore.
Yeah.
So, like, besides from people who make a living from this, it largely just doesn't matter for anyone outside of it, which I think, like you said, it's just childish dramas. Like, no one else cares, no one else should care. Anyone from an outsider's perspective would think this is absolutely mental, that a football hooligan and people from the freedom movement are fighting against one another. So, for the sake of preserving images, I would have just kept it peaceful.
Yep.
However, there are more protests that hopefully won't have a spontaneous protest that we can align ourselves with. So do you want to quickly advertise that?
Yes, so this is on behalf of a friend. On the 24th of January, there's going to be another digital ID protest in Marble Arch at 1 p.m. And that one is organised by Nacho, who originally formed Stand Up X, but is now working on his new initiative, which is the People's Platform. So I hope that you can come down to Marble Arch, 1 p.m, 24th of January.
And also, putting Christ back in Christmas.
Yes.
There's even more things happening on the Christmas front. Do you want to quickly, and this will be a few days just after this is posted, the Christmas party?
Yep, so coming up we have a collaborative project, Bob and I. It's the Young Bob and E Speaks Freely and Defiance Records Christmas night. It's going to be a live podcast. There's going to be music. It's going to be kind of like a panel discussion talking about all the relevant topics and, of course, putting Christ back into Christmas. I'm sure you can put a flyer up or something, but you can just stay tuned on our social medias for the time updates, but it will be held at the Trump Arms, and did I say the dates? On the 21st. So we hope you can come.
Anyways, Emma, thanks for having yourself on, and it's always a pleasure.
Thanks for bringing me on.
This video is sponsored by Defiance Records, fantastic music company with Ramis and Mad Mix and Trevor John. Great music. Really non-woke stuff, none of this transgenderism and wokeism. My friend Elon would greatly recommend it. It's brilliant stuff. We love it so much. I love their music personally. It's all of the hits that I use at my conference, so please visit their music. It's great.
And this is where the juicy things come in. Of course, prerequisite, I already went on Dan Wootton today.
A despicable attack by Hope Not Hate on a young activist who many of you will know and many of you will love, young Bob, 17-year-old who has decided to put his neck on the line over the past few months by going out there in public, documenting what's really going on when it comes to big stories like the Epping Hotel protests, and even becoming the face of Turning Point UK at university campuses in the weeks after the political assassination of Charlie Kirk in the US. You don't have to agree with everything young Bob thinks, but you should absolutely think he has a right to continue his work without being attacked. And those attacks are coming in lots of forms, because Hope Not Hate, Nick Lowell's truly decrepit organisation, has launched a sting campaign on young Bob to try and smear him.
However, what I will say towards the Hope Not Hate report is that, and again, I can be misproven here, it was done at a Reform branch event I was invited to at Warwickshire, and what had happened was four students for Reform had spoken to me. They started asking questions about UKIP, Turning Point UK, and my sort of initial response was just that, well, firstly, a lot of people share grievances in the fact that Tenkoni is the CEO of Turning Point UK. Of course, being a leader of a political party and being a member of a political party whilst also being affiliated with a non-partisan political organisation is different. So, for example, if you're of a leader, it's exclusionary. If you're a member, it's inclusionary. Because if you're a member of something, you can just simply argue we are a broad church of UKIP, Advance UK, Reform, those sort of things. However, if you're the leader of a dissident right-wing party, it instantly removes the possibility that university students that are traditionally posh Tories or reformers, they can't join because it's too much of a bad image for them. And there have been numerous occasions where I've interacted on university campuses, and most of the time the prerequisite for me being assaulted is because of Nick's affiliations with Turning Point UK. So I was mostly quoting, when it comes to my vulgar language, students that have, said things to me. And of course, when you are speaking to four people that are your age, you're typically more highly likely to use this sort of caliber of language. And also, if it's at a pub after an event, you're more likely to bitch and moan, vent your frustrations out on other people. And this doesn't genuinely reflect the way I actually feel with people, but rather in the moment, how I handle my sort of emotions and language, which of course I'm trying to set an example, so there's no excuse there, simply just giving context. However, outside of that, the sort of dishonesty in the report was, firstly, the context is missing in the questions they're posing to me. Notice how the audio recordings only present the answers that I'm given to the questions that people are giving to me.
I did a test. I messaged the CEO of T4 on Twitter. He gave me a response, and essentially, a good way of indicating whether you're late is that if you send the message to the boss of the American branch, he sends it back to your boss that's linked. I sent a message to him like, this organisation is undermanaged, underfunded, and will not go anywhere. It's under improper leadership. They sent me a message agreeing with the statement.
So you can't really receive the full context of what is being said. This also includes the audio recording of me speaking on Tommy Robinson. It was a few days just after the Telegram tried to get in contact with Tommy Robinson's Muslim school friends, which they instantly reported back to Tommy because they couldn't say one bad thing about him. Tommy on numerous occasions is a strong defendant of the sort of replacement theory, also talks on how you can have integration from different communities and individually from people from the Muslim community. And this is why I said a private appreciation. However, I should have misworded that because it sounds a bit nefarious. And also the question was framed by a Muslim student, I am intimidated by the football hooligan days, which of course I gave the response that these people are brain dead.
So Tommy himself, because he grew up in Luton, he shares this sort of private appreciation of Muslims that integrate to this society. However, the people that he surrounds himself with and the slogans he will bring out, of course, invites that disliking you. So, for example, the Talib, I forgot to lose my hand first, but they tried to do a hit piece on that through contacting some of the Asian boys at his school. Then they all supported him, you know, matter at one of the ends. And the reason being was because, they liked him. And I see that a lot of the time, people who can accept the fact that someone's going to figure out and others can't. However, when you bring such a brain-dead support base, unfortunately the nuance gets lost in the crowd of people that are protesting with you.
You'd think that the whole sucking up to Tommy was something they did online to be popular. No, they do it off camera. It's like who can beat Tommy's best boy. I wasn't a fan of Donkey. I know he's security Donkey. One of his friends. I was in a transit van for about an hour. They're all trying to. What do you think of this? No, how we are. Dogs. Oh my goodness. I went into politics. I was going to lick their arse, man.
So I honestly, I'm incredibly privileged that Hope Not Hate considered me a threat within the sort of right-wing sphere. And if you just play it now, the Tommy Robinson response was superb. I was incredibly distressed, shaken. And the first thing he said, he gave me a voice message saying, listen, mate, Hope Not Hate. You are someone who has gone through a lot for your age, and everyone talks crap about everyone else. So it's to be expected.
I would not even bother listening to anything from Hope Not Hate. What I will tell you is young Bob has already earned respect. He's a young lad who must be under immense pressure in our politics. So to all of our support base, all of our fan base, no one should have any hurt feelings over whatever's been said. I don't really care what's been said. I don't really care if young Bob criticises me. I don't know if he has. I don't care if he has. He's a young man, a young lad who's put his life on the line, who's gone out there all guns blazing, standing up for the next generation, speaking out. It's very difficult. It's stressful. When you're under stress and under pressure, you're in different situations. I've been there myself. I've said lots of things I regret, okay? This is a young man who deserves all of our support. I don't care what's been said. Anyone with hurt feelings, fuck your feelings. He's a young gentleman who has earned respect already, okay? And he's young. He needs an arm around him. He needs a bit of direction and needs support. He hasn't had support. He's been made homeless. He's been made on his own. And still he's out there for all that fighting. So my words to everyone picking up on this scumbag, Hope Not Hate bullshit piece is ignore it. They've gone out intentionally. I wouldn't trust how any of it. I wouldn't trust any of it. All right. What I would still say is I support and admire and respect young Bob as a young gentleman. And so should you. Don't let them. What's the purpose of Hope Not Hate doing this? To ruin this kid. Why do they want to ruin this kid? Because they see the potential he has. That's the purpose. Do not let them be successful in what they're attempting to do. Fuck Hope Not Hate. Support young Bob. There you go.
Now, I had the great opportunity of being invited to put the Christ back in Christmas. So my immediate response was, and I'll give my honest response towards the whole thing, because firstly, I'm Orthodox. I want to make that very clear. However, as an Orthodox Christian, I got a lot of flack from different people saying that Tommy Robinson is contributing to a Christian revival now. If we're talking in a more broad aspect, I think that a lot of people are coming to Christianity in an unorthodox way. I can appreciate that mostly because the institutions like Church of England have been taken over by people who don't appreciate the way they're coming to Christ. And I think everyone, regardless of the way they come to Christ, deserves the promise of the cross. So fundamentally, I disagree with the sort of tradition they're coming from. However, I love the fact they're doing it. And the reason why I believe Tommy's contributing to this revival is, like me, he's noticed that there are a lost sheep of people, that being people on the right, who have been receiving a lot of flack from the left, who have hijacked these churches and have conflated and reduced the two to being one and the same. So once they know that Christianity is embedded within the culture and people of Britain, they're slowly coming back to it, but in a very unorthodox and difficult way. Bishop Dewar, some of the priests from the Confessing Anglican Church, my immediate response would just be, well, surely these people are, people who don't have the pious character to be ordained as bishops and priests from traditional denominations. So they just go to a church where the threshold of that is lower. However, when I spoke to them, they seemed like very pious men. A lot of the people that I'd expect to be seeing in the Orthodox Church, they do legitimately see a fight to reclaim the Anglican Church. And I had a deep admiration and respect for these people, especially when they were trying to pray over me. So, I think my position on these people have changed. And I still hold to my principles that we shouldn't be evangelizing Muslims, we should be evangelizing the right. However, the speech went well. Tommy keeps on jokingly come up to me. He's like, "What did you say to me?"
And who would have known 10 years ago that this is the man at the epicenter of a Christian revival? How are you doing, Tommy?
I'm good, mate. And all my supporters are thick as shit.
Well, of course,
I'm
hope not
joking.
hate. They hate the idea that the right can be united. And of course, I don't think the way I spoke on that recording is
Don't worry
excusable.
about it, son.
However,
Right.
they are definitely trying to stitch us all up because they would hate to see a united right, which they saw on the 13th of September. And if they didn't see that, they would never go after people.
Bob, you're doing a great job, right? You'll learn. How good is he? Okay? For a 17-year-old boy. I started my activism at 25, yeah? And I think about the pressures and stresses I was under at 25 years old. He's 17 years old. He's doing great.
So, you know, a bit of banter there. And just to go into context, the Church of England, the same day of the event, a few days before and after, condemned the Confessing Anglican Church and other bishops and priests that were in line with the UTK rallies, and also the people in the rallies themselves, arguing it's a misrepresentation of the cross, which, of course, such a holy and godly thing can't be distorted. I think it's rather just a contradiction in and of itself. However, if I saw these people being misguided, I wouldn't insult them. I would simply offer them the opportunity to go to your local church's carol service. I think the way that they sort of communicated their grievances, and again, Orthodox, a lot of the priests that I interact with not hate what I do, but they misunderstand because, you know, they're Greeks, they're Russians, they are completely detached from what Britain is going through. So they don't understand at all what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and a lot of the times they consider it impious. And the way that they would communicate to me that fact is completely different to the way that the Anglican Church is communicating to other practitioners the way that they feel the cross is being misrepresented in these rallies. And it demonstrates the fundamental problem with the Anglican Church. It is now a political football for the left. It has been taken over by institutions such as Stand Up to Racism in order to ultimately usurp its goal of progressive style politics. So, you know, my ending thoughts would just be this: regardless of what sort of Christian you are, you should do it with compassion, empathy, and respect. Now, it's approaching the sort of new year, and of course we've started our stand initiatives at Cross and Corner and Turning Point UK, and they've been largely successful, so I'm just going to show you quickly a compilation of all the videos.
Do you agree with the prompt?
Yes, but I won't.
Go on, eh? Do you want to shake my hand? Have a good one. Lord bless you.
Oh, let me speak! I'm 18 years old! Look, I don't even have teeth! Let me speak, please! I'll just ask you some questions.
Go on.
What happened to April on Emmerdale? Can you give me some nickname of the Coronation Street?
Some names on Coronation Street?
No, just a nickname, how British people will
Corrie.
call that. Corrie. Some presenters of ITV News.
No, because I don't watch for legacy media.
How much does a TV license cost here?
Well, I don't fucking pay it.
Pay a TV license.
So you want to pay TV license? How about, does anyone know how much does 4 pints of milk cost at this time? 4 pints of milk. How much does it cost? And now let me ask, how much does 4 pints of filtered milk cost? 4 pints of filtered
Are you
milk.
seriously going to go through down each different
How
type of milk?
much does 4 pints of filtered milk cost?
Are we going to go around the entire little supermarket, or?
Carrots cost here in the UK? 65. 65, that's correct. I finally got the correct answer.
Fuck you!
So, lady,
They shouldn't be allowed.
You're on camera. Congratulations.
Lady, I'm actually too young to be in university, so if I'm stupid enough to be in
Okay, we're all students here too.
should stay here just to see what happens. I honestly think that if they're just going to do this, I think it's fine. I think you're stepping on my property, so I would ask that you don't do that. But look, the law IQ chimps, the ones that are unfortunately, you know...
Please do not call people that.
Well, don't protest the speaking event.
be a traditional man and stop being afraid of women.
Pardon? Well, this is good fun. And why you think it's good to protest?
a discussion with a child parroting American talking points.
What American talking points have I?
Why don't we banter his hoodie and show it?
The fact is that he was a patriot for America who died for the sake of his opinions.
This is a Brit wearing an American flag, sir. You're an idiot.
Yeah, showing the appreciation for Charlie Kirk. So, unfortunately, live and direct, we have the white saviour complex on the London School of Economics.
Everybody, rhino.
You agree, ma'am?
We don't agree with none of you, because all you and you are doing is causing a divide. You're all fucking stupid.
Jesus loves you, Lord.
What?
Jesus loves you.
No, you're all stupid. This is what they want, a divide between us all. You're all fucking stupid. The government are the ones controlling the narrative. For a long time, Muslims and Christians have lived together very fucking peacefully.
When they pay the jizya.
So you
Why have Muslims and Christians lived peacefully with one another?
Why not?
Give me a time frame, lady.
What? I don't know. Because it's not me controlling the narrative, is it? It's not me controlling the narrative. It's the government. We can't. You don't. You know what? I don't need to read your Bible, yeah? To be connected to Christ consciousness. Let me tell you that for fucking free. How many white men, how many white people rape people in this country? Let's get that straight. Well, that's not everywhere, everything, that's not everywhere. I'm angry about the way people are just blind to all, because you know what, if things carry on, this digital ID, we're all going to be controlled. Okay. We're going to be in the fucking government's back pocket.
That's a good one.
I just got a bit annoyed about how you're judgmental and shouting things over there.
More pious than the I meditate of Richard Jen, and you guys
See what I mean? You're patronising me now, because I'm saying that, but I've never once done that to you now. I've stated facts instead. Have I?
I am dividing the country for what I do. You came here, shouted at me, then you started apologising, which I accept, but you're still teaching, oh, I am more pious than the I meditate.
I've never said that. I never see that. You're putting words in my mouth. I've never said I'm more better than anyone. We're all equal once we realise that we're all equal and we're all one. We might be. Meditate. Do you meditate?
I pray, yeah.
No, meditate and pray. In the Bible, you follow the Bible, but you don't meditate. It's even in the Bible about meditation.
What's the reason why you meditate, though?
To connect to right source, divine source, energy. You'll call it
what's
God,
the result of
Jesus.
that?
What?
And what's the result of that? What results does it produce?
Do you know what? Being awake to all this bullshit that's around, the everyone separation. Do you know what? If people all stood together, everyone went, do you know what? We're not paying this, we're not paying that. Do you know where your money's going? Causing the wars and everything that's going on. You know when you're paying into your taxes and all the rest of it. Do you know where your money's... What? Yeah, pay tax. Everyone pays tax. You don't get away. What if we all stop?
I'm just trying to understand, because like obviously it's quite a big thing to be like, okay, I'm just going to go into Camden and like set up a table and have people to debate me. Like for you, where has that drive come from? Like what is it that you look around and you're like, things are going so terribly wrong, I have to show people that there's another way?
Well, when I see a man over there, I don't know if he's still gone, he threatened to shoot me and said I should be suicided, said that I should be shot like Charlie Kirk. I see these individuals and they're wearing like anarchy boots and they're like anarcho-communists. I think that certainly, like I said, if Sadiq Khan wants to go around London saying the biggest form of multiculturalism, this is an epicenter of multiculturalism, I think we should test that theory and look at the ideas that we're promoting and see if those ideas are multicultural, whether you and I can live in one society but disagree with each other.
Yeah, but you said earlier that you feel like there's a line as well, like you don't think that there's a line when freedom of speech becomes hateful and that shouldn't be allowed.
I didn't say hateful, I said incitement to violence.
Incitement to violence, okay. So up until that point you think that everything's okay and you think that's been damaged. I mean, what do you feel like, because we talk to a lot of people across the UK and they often say this, right? They say, oh, we don't feel like we can say anything, or...
Well, you can't.
You can't can't?
I've been arrested.
What is it that you would like to say that you feel like you can't?
I was arrested under Section 19 of the Public Order Act for saying that we should deport economic migrants from the Bell Hotel in Epping. We can't say anything.
What are the circumstances that you're saying that? Because
In a protest.
Okay.
And a megaphone. So, you asked me what are degenerate values. I gave the example of the fact that we're kind of harbouring a society that exposes young people to pornography.
You chose that. You chose.
I can't consent at a young age to watch porn.
If I went like
My
this
4-year-old
and showed you a
still
video,
chooses.
could you look away?
My 4-year-old.
I mean, what is the psychology of children? Typically, if you give them attention, they're going to focus on where that attention is given.
I thought you said you were a drama major. Did you go to school for child psychology?
No, of course not. But I can.
Do you have like an?
I don't have to.
Have you raised a child to
Before
know?
you interrupt me so eagerly, I can have information about things without majoring in that study.
Okay, so if I ask you a question, it's taunting you eagerly.
Yeah.
If you tell me I said something that I didn't say, that's
When
not
did I do that?
You're like doing like literally the meme.
Yeah.
You're the meme.
You're the meme.
You're the literal.
I
meme.
appreciate that, but maybe the fact that
You're the meme.
maybe a lot of the things that our founder said was memed because it was so prevalent and actually quite useful. If you look at the art of discussion, it's actually called a formal fallacy of Mott and Bailey.
Did you ever read the book?
Have you ever interacted with a normal person?
Well, yeah.
There's a book.
like
It's called like
literally the
the Act
weirdest dude I've ever
of Living. It's an actor's book. Do y'all read it? Because I was also a theater major.
Okay.
And I feel like maybe you're in a character.
I've been doing this for about 2 years, pretty consistent, unless I'm a really good actor.
I have a lot of.
No, as a theater person, how do you fit in with the theater people?
I didn't, that's why I decided to do this.
That's
You know what? I'm sorry. You didn't fit in. And
I don't. No, so I went against the fact.
I didn't fit in with like finance bros, and I grew up in a world where everyone went to med school, and I didn't fit in. You know what I did? I chose to love people just the same.
Conform. Conform.
He loves music.
I don't
he didn't
conform.
conform.
I work in music.
I love this. So
I work in a world where I do stuff that is antithetical to the more conservative people that live in my world, but I love them just the same. I care about them just the same. I'm still friends with them. I still try to get them to respect values that they should.
Love these people.
Yes, but I make sure that they know that I care about them no matter what they chose to do.
So it's conservative.
I don't care if you're in finance. I think it's reprehensible.
But let me tell you something.
But I still love you for taking the path that your parents forced you down. And I changed my path.
You were a theater
I didn't fit in. Yeah,
Can I respond at some point?
No, I don't want you to explain. I feel bad for you.
Can I respond at some point?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry for you.
Okay.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
There's a world of love out there, man. There's a world of love out there. That does
And
not
right now,
exist.
the world of love is right now condemning me and feeling sorry for me like a patronizing adult. So.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
There's a world of love where you can accept everyone.
You felt patronized and not loved by your theater community, and then you're
Because I said to them, I disagree with transgenderism, and then they told me to go kill myself.
Why do you disagree with transgenderism?
I don't think
it's actually very upsetting. So why do you disagree?
It's invalid. I think a lot of the time yes.
Why is it? Why?
It's a very fluffy LGBTQ
Okay,
mic.
the very justification.
LGBTQ mic?
Hey, babe.
Okay.
Let him actually answer why he thinks that human beings are invalid. I would love to hear why human beings are invalid.
Okay,
This is
great.
actually a great.
So their form of identity, just that for whatever reason they can reason within themselves that they're in the wrong body, is this wrong in my mind? I don't know, man. Listen, there's rambling loonies. Go on.
We're rambling
Okay,
loonies?
yes. I was going to say something really nice to you. Listen,
we're rambling
I know that you don't
loonies.
agree that transgenderism is real, but it's very real. Those people are very real.
They exist,
Just like
yes.
No, they are very real, and their feelings matter, and their right to existence fucking matters.
Okay.
Your right to existence fucking matters, even though I don't like you.
Even though
it
we don't.
still matters.
Okay.
You get to be who you are because
I
you
don't
are.
believe they exist as a woman if they are a man.
You get to be who
If-
you are.
if they
No,
exist-
he's like, why do they hate Charlie? He's coming up. He's fucking shit. He's doing shit. No, he's fucking shit.
Okay.
Babe, just let me do my thing.
Relax.
Listen, you get to live. You get to be yourself. You get to.
Alright.
You get.
So,
you get to be yourself. You can exist as a white dude living in this fucking world. Transgender people get to fucking be who they want.
Well, no, they're not legitimate. They're not legitimately women if they are biologically men.
You don't tell me transgender people don't get to live, man.
They don't exist.
They fucking exist.
They don't.
Transgender people exist. Put
They
this in
don't.
the fucking internet. Transgender people exist. They have the right to exist. They will always exist.
They can exist as the biological sex
You know
that
what?
they exist as, but they don't
White-
exist.
White people should not fucking exist.
Also,
White people? Whoa, calling for a white genocide. Very, very tolerant of you.
The enemy is Satan. Satan's
my God. See,
There's no need to have a freeway
Again,
discussion.
I feel bad for you. Calm down. I feel bad for you. You are not on the right path. My God.
Well, he just called for a white genocide. Is he on the right side of history?
Does he call because like I'm his wife? I'm his wife, and we have mixed white children. And
Should he kill the more white version of them because he just said white people shouldn't exist?
no, but maybe
Apparently
I.
you're
People on the right shouldn't exist because they hate them.
So we should just all just die then.
You're Charlie Cooking me because you literally took like what he's.
You're calling for hate.
Pardon?
You're calling
I'm not
for
just
hate.
saying
I just said that these people live as their biological sex and don't
calling
exist.
for hate.
No, I'm not.
You set this up to call for. I'm not talking to you.
No one. We don't.
Right, listen, there's no need to have a freeway discussion, yeah?
You sat here
Yes.
and created a thing.
Yes.
To try to create hate.
No.
Yes. I'm not going to talk. You know what? To create hate.
Now, the general point I think we should express is this, because coming towards Christmas, I think it's incredibly interesting to do this. The emotion you put behind an argument. And, Charlie Kirk expressed this in the best way. Having compassion and empathy for the people you're talking with. If you possess the truth, you should be sympathetic to those who don't. You should show compassion to those who don't. You should love the people who don't. Because if you're engaging with them, it's out of the respect that you're hoping that they will come to the truth in the same way. And doing it in such a pitiful and angry way will only further disenfranchise them from the truth. So it is up for you, and this is the last words I'll say on this show, that for whatever you say that could bring someone towards Christ, it could equally move them away from Christ. If you do want to come to our Christmas party, I'll be on the 21st of December at the Bolly Milligans in Kensington, Olympia. I think that's been an excellently put show. If you want to support us, please go at shop.crossingcorner.org, buy some merch. Alternatively, you can also donate on the same website. However, may the Lord Jesus Christ bless us all and have a Merry Christmas.